I think we need more people like you. I think that's all I say. We need more people like you to prove that this country does not have systemic racism.
That, my friends, is Yeonmi Park, one of only 290 people living in the United States today who have successfully defected from North Korea. Just a few hours ago, I got to chat and meet with her, and she is an absolute wonderful individual. And not just because she said nice things about me. I'm not really showing the context of that clip. That was me asking her a question during a Q&A while she spoke here in Utah. But I got to meet her afterward as well. She actually gave me her contact information and agreed to be on our show. So we'll see how that happens. I'll be contacting her in the next couple days to see if we can't set that up. If you're not familiar with her, she's on social media. There's quite a few reels and shorts and TikToks about her.
Who's the hottest guy in the world?
In the world?
In the whole world.
Used to be my type was Kim Jong-un.
And I think what really put her on the map is when she was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast.
So you were 13 when you and your family, was it you and your mother that escaped?
Yeah.
How did you get out?
So those are a couple of clips that you may have seen of her with Joe Rogan and with Andrew Schultz. She truly is a lovely individual. She spoke as a keynote speaker, I guess, for Young America's Foundation event in Utah Valley University. I think that's what UVU stands for, down in Provo, Utah. So we went to see her speak. I asked her a question as part of the Q&A panel, and then I got to meet her at the meet and greet afterward and exchange a couple comments, and she got to meet my wife as well as myself, and we just had a lovely evening. So what I want to do is I want to play the introduction to the show, and then I want to get into some highlights of some things she said during tonight's event and how they really, really resonated with me. She choked me up. I mean, this is a person who has suffered some of the most horrific things that a person can suffer under the North Korean regime. And she is a happy and optimistic individual who loves America, loves the Constitution, loves the Second Amendment, and doesn't consider herself a victim, even though she is I don't want to use the word victim, even though she was caught in the net of a Chinese trafficking operation. Truly wonderful individual. I can't wait to contact her and have her on the show. Let's hit the introduction and let me show you those highlights.
I'm standing here as an American myself, and it's quite an interesting time to be an American. Not that many of North Koreans made it to America. Guys, do you know actually how many North Koreans made it to America over the last 80 years? About 209 of us made it to freedom in 80 years. And I am one of that person.
All right, so I was off in the introduction. It's not that she's one of 290 people living in America today that escaped North Korea. She's one of 209, according to her figures, of North Koreans that made it to America, period, over the last 80 years. She truly is unique in her experience and in her insight. She goes on at the very beginning. The very next thing she says after this is an experience she had at Columbia University. And it totally resonated with me because I had similar experiences as a freshman at UC Berkeley.
I came to America with a great hope. Of course, this is the land of the free, home of the brave. I came to study at Columbia University when I came here for the first time. When I went to Columbia University, there I saw something that I could not really believe. Because in that university, my fellow students at Columbia were learning exact same things that I learned in North Korean classroom, which meant that all the problems that we have in the world right now exist because of white men, because of American capitalism, and because of this country. And the professors were telling us the only solution to all these problems is us destroying America. It's us destroying American Constitution. And then rebuilding this country in the name of equity, which meant socialism.
Can you imagine the heartbreak of a North Korean defector going to Columbia University in the land of the free and home of the brave, and these damn knuckleheads, these commie, socialist, Marxist worshipping bastards, telling her and her fellow students that America sucks, that everything is the white man's fault, that the Constitution needs to be burned to the ground, and we need to reboot everything in the name of socialism, when she escaped that to come here. I can't even imagine how that must have hurt her soul.
All these professors that I met at Columbia, they learned socialism in their textbooks, in their comfortable room with the air conditioning on, with their nice computer with the internet on. And they were saying amazing thing about socialism and how this is going to save all us and take us to a paradise. And instead of learning as a theory, I lived it because I was born in North Korea, so-called the socialist paradise.
They're trying to sell her a paradise, and she lived in a socialist country, can tell you it's no paradise. Theoretically, it's supposed to work. And if you've ever talked to a hardcore Marxist, then this is how they think. They think, oh, it just hasn't been implemented correctly. That's what I was taught at UC Berkeley. When I was referencing that I had a very similar experience, at UC Berkeley. They tried to shove socialism down my throat in political science classes and other history classes and what have you. And I rejected that as an 18-year-old. Before my 19th birthday, I rejected all of the indoctrination that they tried to push on me to make me a Marxist socialist. And I went into UC Berkeley as an 18-year-old freshman, already a Democrat, thinking that big government's a good idea. And by the end of my freshman year, before my 19th birthday, I was a lover of the Constitution, freedom, and liberty, and rejected all of that. And then God was forming who I was going to be as an adult. And I lived in a former socialist country after that. And I got to see the misery and the lies and the deceit and the control that the people had to live under socialism. And it cemented in me a love for freedom, constitution, limited government. And I am anything but a Marxist. I am anti-Marxism. Now, look, the next thing she says is one of the things I really wanted. I made this video to share two things that she said. Two things really hit home for me because they resonated with me. These are the exact things that I think about and feel. And what are the Marxists doing to divide us right now? They're saying that America is racist because of white nationalism, because my white brothers and sisters, whom I love so dearly, I love you, my white brothers and sisters. Of course, I love my black and Latino brothers and sisters as well, but I hold no hate or animosity towards you. And guess what? Many of your ancestors actually died in the Civil War to free my ancestors. But that's not how the Marxists have it. No, they want to divide us on race and make America seem like the most evil country in the world. But guess what? They're always dividing people. And it's always done in Marxist societies. And if they don't have race, they find a way to divide people.
Even though socialism promises equality of outcomes, where everybody is equal. You know, guys, in North Korea right now, there are 51 different classes. And you wonder how. Like Koreans are not like Americans. There's no different race. We are all the same people. How can you possibly dividing people into 51 different castes? They divided into different castes based on what our ancestors did, deserving you anything. So if my great-grandfather was a landowner, the government said, your blood is tainted. Imagine that. Your government tells you that your blood is tainted. Your genetics is oppressive. And that's how they put you in different castes, based on what your ancestors did, not based on what you did.
Is it any wonder that the Marxists don't really celebrate or talk about Martin Luther King Jr. anymore when he talked about he had a dream that we be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin? Because they want to divide us on this race issue. And when they don't have race, they will still divide you. 51 different levels in the caste system of North Korea. And that's determined by your ancestors. And that's exactly what they're doing to my lovely white brothers and sisters now. Oh, you are part of a legacy of slave owners.
And this is what's happening in America right now. If your ancestors owned the slaves, you are guilty. Because that's what they did. Your genetics is oppressive.
That really resonated with me. That's CRT, where they're trying to teach our children that black people are victims and white people are oppressors just by the color of their skin, all meant to divide us. And in North Korea, they don't even have race and they divide people. Don't fall for it. To all of you, my white brothers and sisters, do not carry the burden. The child does not have to carry the sins of the father. And take joy. Take pride even. Many of you are of Union soldier lineage who fought to free black slaves. More white people have died in a war to free black African slaves than blacks or Africans have fought to free black or African slaves. Just let that sink in. Let that sink in. All right, another thing that she talks about communism does, and she had experiences, they condition you to not have wrong think and to make you scared of saying anything. This cancel culture we're seeing, this is just a reflection of Marxism. They want to control the way you think by controlling what you can and cannot say and making you scared to say anything so you don't say it and you don't think it. And then you lose your critical thinking skills and you become the worker bee and the mind and body slave that the tyrants at the top of any Marxist culture or system, they're always up there, and they don't want you to think about your being a slave. So they condition you and your family by threats and being scared of wrong think, therefore taking away your ability to think and think critically.
Despite this kind of government persecution, the very first thing my mother told me as a young girl to protect me, which was saying, she said, don't even whisper, because birds and mice couldn't hear me. If I said one wrong word, that was going to kill up to 3 to 8 generations of my family, from both my mom and my dad's side. And that's very early on. I learned not to even whisper, but not to even think, because there's even no point of thinking, right? One wrong word can get all of you get killed. Why do you even bother to think? That's why in North Korea, there's no critical thinking. Nobody knows how to think critically.
Yeonmi then goes on to talk about how she was trafficked for the oldest trade in the world and how that was a horrific experience. She was literally a slave in that trade and was for a couple years. And guess who saved her? Was it some leftist? Was it some Marxists? Was it some woke person? No. It was, well, let me have her tell you who it was that saved her.
After 2 years of my slavery, by some miracle, I met the Christian missionaries coming from South Korea who were rescuing North Korean defectors.
All right, as a Christian, I am so fed up. Father, give me patience with these anti-Christian and this whole anti-Christian sentiment and movement. The virtue signaling left make it seem like they are the virtuous ones. They are the tolerant ones. But they're a bunch of yappity yaps. The abolitionists in America, Quakers, Christians, those that fought for the freedom of... She was a slave, okay? She was a slave. People can talk about slavery. It was Christians that got the defectors and freed her and others from slavery. I am so tired of the anti-Christian left. And here's an example of why. Because they talk, but throughout history, we have seen some marvelous and great things done in the name of humanity by people who love and worship Christ of all different Christian denominations, but with that same teaching from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that we are all children of God and that we are all redeemed, that he has paid the ultimate price for every single one of us, and we all have the worth of our soul is great in his eyes. Anytime anyone starts with a Christian bashing, my eyes glaze over and they absolutely lose me. Okay, so she goes on to talk about learning the Constitution and how she just loved it. And she loved the concept that was foreign to her of where our freedoms and liberties come from that are named in the U.S. Constitution.
No country is perfect. I know that no nation is perfect. Nothing is perfect. That's life. But because of these few imperfections, that we want to throw away a country that give a platform to a person like me, a sex slave who was sold for like a trash garbage. My worth was not even $300. But in America, I have a right that was given by God. When I read the Constitution, I could not believe it. This U.S. Constitution says that you have a right that was given by God, not by your state, not by your man, but by your ultimate creator of this universe. No state can take away from you. And that's America. So I hope you can join me to fight for America. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
I'm getting choked up listening to it a second time. Our freedoms come from God, and they don't come from the state. They don't come from man, but that is how the Marxists want you to think. They want you to worship the state and worship them. If it's not Kim Jong-il, then or Kim Jong-un or Xi or whatever dictator they have at the top, they want you to worship the state and the party. But our freedoms come from God, and they are enshrined in the Constitution. All right, during the Q&A, there were some really good questions.
My question is, I heard you mention how when you read the Constitution, is the first time you realized that there were rights that you had from God that weren't given to you by the government.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you could share with us what some of those rights are.
Oh, I mean, there are so many other rights the Constitution says, but I think what struck me when I read the Constitution for the first time, that, you know, my existence, my worth came from government in North Korea, how they recognized me. But in America, my right as a person does not come from that. It's above that. And I think that's why the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, is so unique in that way.
So that was a great question asked by a man, I believe his name was Jason, and she eloquently expounded on what she had said earlier about God and the Constitution. But then she zeroed in, right after that, she zeroes in on her favorite right that we had, you know, constitutional right that we had, because that was kind of the question that Jason had asked her. And let me tell you, I was kind of taken by surprise and tickled pink by what her favorite right that we have per the Constitution is. And she went right to the Bill of Rights, right to those 10 amendments that amended the Constitution to specifically put in there the rights that we are guaranteed as Americans. And this one's her favorite.
And that's why we are even protected from our own government's tyranny. Another right that I love in the U.S. Constitution is the right to bear arms. It's a lot of people saying that, like, this is why I believe in America, because we have guns. And hear me out. I know a lot of you are triggered right now.
She loves the fact that we have the right to bear arms, that we have guns, and warned about people getting triggered. One of the reasons why I'm no longer in California, here in Utah, people really aren't triggered. They know how to handle triggers. And that's why it's a lot safer where I live here in Utah than most of California that I escaped from. Oh, and she expounds on why and how people, when she first came into this country under the Obama regime, were trying to tell her that she was wrong to think this way.
I know there are school shootings. I know there are, but so people are saying, like, well, Obama has nukes, right? At the time I came, the Obama was the president. It's like, how with a single gun, how are you going to fight against your government? Is that there's no way your government will kill all of you. Then how they're going to become a dictator? How would they going to enslave? And imagine if North Korean people had the guns in their hands. Who's on earth going to let 3 generations of your family gonna take it down and get killed? You're going to fight back in some way. Look at Hong Kong. 75% of people in Hong Kong marched on the street demanding their freedom from CCP. Because they did not have a single gun in their hand, that didn't matter. The majority didn't want it, they still gone that way. So because of that, it's so important us to keep that guns in our hands. And when the day comes, hopefully never, but if our government becomes our slave, like our owners, right, like a North Korean regime, that we can use that gun to free ourselves. And I think that is the most important right that I see, besides all other rights that I see in the Constitution.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you, sir.
Now I want to end with this. This is the question I asked her during the Q&A. And I was inspired because she touched on this woke idea of white people being inherently evil because of their ancestors may or may not have owned slaves. Chances are their ancestors didn't own slaves. She touched on how there's racism and caste and divisiveness and hierarchies, even if you don't have race. And she talked about how she loved the Constitution and how she loved the Second Amendment. And I just wanted her to expound. I mean, Utah is a majority white state. And I see a lot of great people in this state and in other places I've been to, Idaho, Wyoming. Not so much in Wyoming. There's still cowboys out there. I love people in Wyoming, let me tell you. But they're afraid, even good people are afraid to stand up for conservatism, to stand up against the woke ideologies, to stand up for the Constitution, because they're afraid that they're going to be called racist, that loving freedom and America is gonna make them racist. And I find people in here in Utah are lovely, but sometimes they seem, not everybody, but some people here are just like they don't want to be thought of that way, so they don't say anything. And I think that with this being an election year, with so much being at stake, that we can't be quiet. And that it's not racist. It is not racist to love the Constitution and to love America. So anyway, I'm kind of telling you the question that you're about to hear me ask her. And I lived in a communist country. I lived in Nicaragua for 2 years as a young missionary for my church. And I love the people of Nicaragua, but I came in after the Sandinistas, and I got to see the horrible effects of socialism on that country. So I really wanted her, because she had the crowd captivated, I wanted her to just instill a little bit more into my white brothers and sisters that it's not racist to love America and the Constitution and to stand up for it. I think my explanation, my intro into this clip is actually longer than the clip and the question itself. But folks, I feel really strongly about this. They're trying to divide us on race, and we can't let them do that and distract us from what's really important. Ms. Park, thank you very much for your bravery.
Thank you.
And I'm a black conservative. I love this country. I love the Constitution. And I'm dismayed because we're at a point in our history where we're losing our First Amendment rights. We're losing our Second Amendment rights. I'm LDS. I serve my mission in a formerly communist country. So I've seen, though I didn't live during that time, what comes of that. And I am so dismayed that my generation and those younger are afraid to speak up because they think they're going to be called racist, as if, and I love what you said, where God gave us these freedoms. They don't come from the state, and it's colorless. What can you say further than what you've already said to inspire my lovely brothers and sisters here of a lighter shade that think that they let people think that it's racist to love America and love the Constitution? What more can you say to them to inspire them to speak out, because we really are at a crossroads in this country. We're about to lose our freedoms.
I think you are the answer to that question. Like, you prove that freedom is colorless. I think that's why they hate people like you and me or Candace Owens. When, as a minority, when we say that white people are not racist, they are like, they have nothing else to add other than, oh, you're a CIA spy, right? For me, they're like, okay, so what else can I say? Oh, she's a liar, she's CIA spy. I think we need more people like you. I think that's all I say. We need more people like you to prove that this country does not have systemic racism. There are personal racisms. So look, just go to Korea, go to Japan. That racisms are everywhere. We are never gonna get rid of that. But there is currently no systemic racism in America. And I hope more people like you and all of us to really show them that's not the case. And I'm so inspired by you. So thank you so much for sharing your story, sir. Thank you.
And there you have it, the lovely Miss Yeonmi Park. Please tell me down below in the comment section what your favorite part of what she had to share and where her insights and thoughts are. I'm going to put a link down in the description box to the entire video for you to watch. It's worth watching. I think the actual speak she gave was about 25 minutes, and the rest of it was Q&A. I think it was about half and half, so you can see for yourself. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'll be back. Hang tight.